Hi everyone, it's Tammy with Shabby Fabrics. I have the cutest project for you today. This collection is called Safari Life. It was designed by Stacy Ishu for Moda Fabrics. When we saw this collection, we knew we just had to design a quilt around it. It has a panel, and that's how we get the animals that we put on here to applique. Their 3D animals, and I just love this for my grandson. I knew I had to make it right away for him. This is just so cute, and I want to show you the elephant on the back. I could write a special note behind his ear, so it's like a quilt label on the back of the quilt. So to get started, we're going to make a double cross block. This block uses templates, so we decided templates are not that fun. A lot of you are going, oh my gosh, I'm not using templates. I'm with you on that. I don't like templates either. So we designed a block that does not use templates. So I have my pieces here. So I'm going to lay these pieces out for you. So we cut our triangles out of a square, and you cut it twice. I did use magic sizing on my fabrics before I cut them. I like to do that. It gives them a little bit of body. When I'm going to deal with a biased triangle, I always use magic sizing. It just helps that fabric not have as much stretch or pull when I'm working with it, so my blocks are more square. Okay, so you can find the pattern for this quilt is a Safari Life Quilt, and this is in the box right below this video. There is a link you can click to go right to the download. Click on free download, it'll take you right there. Otherwise, if that link is not there for some reason, you can always go to our homepage, scroll all the way to the bottom, and it says free downloads. You can click on that. It's going to take you to our free download page, and there are a ton of downloads on there, lots and lots of videos. It tells you how to search for a certain video. You can search for Safari Life. This one will come right up. Now, we do have kits available, but we only have a limited number of kits. So if you like a kit for this, I suggest you get it right away. I don't expect them to last long. So once you have your download in your hand, it's got several pages to it. So the double cross block is the cross units, and we're going to make that. And I'm just going to set this up here. I have my pieces pre-cut ahead of time. So I'm going to lay this out, and we are going to add our triangles just like this. All right, you can see, I'll go ahead and lay out another one so you can see what this is going to look like this. And you can see how odd this kind of looks, where you have your triangles are way bigger than these rectangles. That's done on purpose, and we will trim this up later. And then you have your sashing unit that goes in like this. So essentially, this is your block. So let's look at how to sew that together. We're going to start with the triangles, and I'm going to line up my bottom point right here even, and I am going to put a pin in that just because I know those like to move a little bit, but I want to make sure this is nice and even. Okay, so I'm going to take that to the sewing machine and sew it. I'm going to sew the other one while I'm there. All right, and when I come back, we'll get it pressed. Okay, so we have got our triangles sewn on here. So now we're going to look at how to press this. And I think you're going to be tempted to press it toward the black. I actually press mine towards the white triangles. So I'm going to set my seam first, and then I'm going to finger press it, and I'm going to press that seam over, making sure I don't take any folds in this. Let's do that again. So we set our seam, kind of warms up that fabric, and I think it makes it fold over cleaner when you do that, if that's the right word for that. It's nice and flat, and that's what I'm looking for, is that nice flat seam. There's no rolls in it, there's no tucks in my seam there. Okay, so I would do that again, and I actually have another one of those done ahead of time like this. All right, So now we have our sashing unit like this. And we're just going to sew our little lions in there. So let's go do that. Okay, so we have our lions in there. So again, I'm going to press toward my lions. I'm going to warm that up. I always put the seam that I'm pressing toward on top. So I put the lions on top, heat that seam up, and press that over. There we go. All right, so now we're going to put these together. So you're going to do right sides together, and now these seams will all nest. You're going to nest these seams together like this. Start here, sew all the way across, and then do the same on this side, right sides together, nest your seams right here, and sew all the way across. All right? Here's what your block looks like when you're done, like this. Okay? So you can see on the back how my seams nested together, and I press these seams open when I sewed the block together. All right? That way, these 4 points come out exactly where I want them. Okay? This looks like an odd block now, doesn't it? So we are going to take this block, and now I'm going to square this up. This block needs to be squared to 5.5 inches. So I like to use a ruler that's slightly larger than the block that I'm squaring it up to. So I'm using a 6.5 by 12.5 inch ruler, and I'm squaring this to 5.5 inches. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Creative Grids ruler, and on here I'm going to use the 1/2 inch side. I want that because my block is going to be 5.5 inches. If it was going to be as 5 inches, I would use this side of the ruler where these are the solid inch marks right here. But I want to use the 1/2 inch side with the black numbers. All right, so I'm going to put this on here, and I find 5.5 and 5.5 right here. All right, I'm going to take this line, this diagonal line right here is a 45-degree line. I'm going to make sure that it is exactly in the center of my block, just like this. And we're at 5.5 inches, 5.5 inches. This is over. We're going to move it down a little bit. So I'm just kind of centering this on here. I like the way this is looking here. I have a little bit on all 4 sides to trim off, okay? So I'm going to use a spinning mat to do this. I love these spinning mats. So we'll take this and this, just like that. Now I'm going to just leave all that alone, and I can just rotate the spinning mat twice. Pick your ruler up, flip it over 180 degrees. Now I have my clean cut edges, and that is what I'm going to line up now with my 5.5. So I'm going to line 5.5, 5.5, right on the money, and here we go. We're going to cut and spin it once and cut this side, just like that. So what I love is now I have these fun points here where before you would have to use a template to get this block. So that's how we make a double cross block, or it's actually a cross block. It's a double cross when you add a second one to it. So to do your double cross block, you're going to lay out your 2 blocks with your sashing units like this. Here we go. Just like that. And your other cross here. And you just put them together as you would expect. Right sides together, press toward your sashing. Right sides together, again, press toward your sashing. I always press toward my sashing units when I make a block like this. And then again, you could press your seams open when you're finished. All right, so now let's get to the fun part. The fun part is the giraffe and the animals that are on this quilt. I'm gonna move this out of my way. All right, so I want to show you the panel. Let's look at the panel. This animal panel is so cute. This is where all your animals are. This is a large panel. All right, so what I did was I cut them all out right on the line. I cut all my pieces out, and the directions are right here at the very top. Now, if you like, you could make just stuffed animals with these. That's what this panel was designed to do. We thought it would be really super cute to put them on the quilt. I like that. I like making a dimensional quilt, especially for babies, so they can sit and pull at the little ears and the tail and the mane. All right, so I've cut this out ahead of time. So I have a giraffe here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make his mane, and I'm just going to fold right sides together. And this is a dimensional piece. We're going to fold it right sides together, and I'm just going to stitch on the short side, on this side, and this side. I'm going to show you everything I'm going to do at the machine. Then I'm going to take my tail. I'm going to put my tail pieces right sides together. And we're going to start at the top up here, and I'm going to back tack a little bit. So down, around, and back up, and end with a back tack. I want to secure this edge because this is where we're turning it through. We're going to turn it. All right, so I'm going to pin my tail together a little bit here. These edges want to move a little bit when you're sewing smaller pieces like this. All right, and then we're also going to sew the ear together. All right, so again, I'm going to put them right sides together. There we go. I'm going to pin the point because I want the point to be where I want them to stay together. All right, so I'm going to go sew all these at the machine, and then we'll turn them. Okay, so once we've sewn around them, we're going to want to clip our curves. And I'm just going to clip around these curves quickly. Cut my tip off. I find it easier to clip my curves before I grade a seam allowance. I find it easier to cut, and I end up with all this little confetti on my sewing table. But I find it easier to clip your curves when your seam allowances are bigger, when they're still the 1/4 inch, rather than, I find it really hard to clip little itty bitty seam allowances. If you were to cut this down to 1/8 of an inch and then try to clip your curves, I think it's much more difficult. So we're just going to cut around. I'm going to grade my seam allowance back to about 1/8 of an inch. A little bit less bulk when I turn this right side out. Okay, and then on these, on the mane, I'm just going to give that corner a little clip. Just like that. Okay. Okay, so let's turn these right side out. We'll start with the mane. He turns pretty easily. I love that with the large opening. And I use my little point to point by Clover. Gets right in there. Love that. Nice sharp point in there. Give it a good press. All right, there's my mane. Let's do our ear. That's easy. There we go. Kind of round it out a little bit, like that. All right, so now I'm going to take my little ear and I'm going to fold my ear in half, like this. And I'm going to press him again because I want him to be really good and pressed when we sew our giraffe together. The ear gets inserted. Okay, perfect, there's my ear. All right, now you look at the tail and you're like, how in the heck is she going to turn that? Well, I wondered the same thing myself, let me tell you. I found a clever tool. It's called the Turn It All. And I'm going to show you how this works. There's a lot of pieces here, so I left them in the package rather than just pull them all out. Pull these out for you. You can take a look at these. Okay, so they come with all these different tubes. And it looks like a straw. It's not a straw. It's a lot heavier material. This is a really heavy plastic. This looks like a drinking straw, but it's not. You can't bend it. These are really heavy plastic, and then they have a little tiny one. All right, so I'm going to take my tail, and I'm going to insert this tube down into it, into the opening, just like this. And I would use the biggest tube. Let me see if we can use this bigger tube. That might be better to use the bigger tube to turn this. Let's see if that'll fit inside there. Nope, it's not going to go. We're going to have to use the blue one. Okay, I'm going to use the blue tube. All right. All right, you can see how this is already starting to turn, how I'm already pushing in on this. There it goes. And it comes out the other side. Done. How cute is this? I can use this metal rod to pop my corners out on my tail, just like that. And the other one, because on this, your point-to-point turner, while it's really an amazing tool, it really is too big for this. I could not get it up into the tip of this tail. I had to use the metal rod. This, it only goes in about to here. So this is not going to do you any good right here. All right, so we get our tail turned. I'm going to give him a good press. There we go. Press him from both sides here. I'm going to get these points a little bit better with my little metal rod here now that I got this pressed out. There we go. I want them sharp points. There. Okay. So now you can gather this stuff here and just set it to the side. So we're going to need this again when we turn our giraffe. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to take my giraffe and I'm going to pin his mane on and his tail like this. Pin his tail to him. I'm going to pin his mane on here. This was so much fun. I made this quilt for my grandson, and it's so much fun to do that. Whenever, I don't know about you, but when I do things like this, I like to think about the child and how he's going to have so much fun playing with these toys and how nice that is and what a special gift this will be from Grandma. I pin his ear on like that, okay? Now I'm just going to lay these two right sides together like this. I'm going to start with the tail and I'm going to move my pin from the inside to the outside, holding the tail in place while I do that. There we go. Okay, I'm going to move my pins. I'm going to pin all around my giraffe, and then I'm going to go sew him together. So If you were going to make this as a stuffed toy, you're going to want to leave an opening, and I would pick a straight part to leave an opening. Don't leave the opening like around the head or anything on a curve. I would pick a straight area to leave an opening to stuff it with, and then you would whip stitch it closed to make a toy. I, however, am going to sew all the way around the entire thing, all right? And then I'm going to show you how I got it to be an applique on the quilt, all right? Okay, so we got him all sewn together. So I'm going to now take my scissors and I'm going to clip in on my sharp points. I'm going to clip into the point without cutting the stitching. Cut in here. I'm going to cut these points off. A little bit here. Anywhere I turned, I generally cut in and clip that corner. And clip my points off here on his chin, and then I'm going to clip this curve all the way around his muzzle. All right, and then on his horns I came in here and here and then all around his little horn. I'm going to clip that. Right, here, and the last curve would be this one out here where his tail is. Ooh, those Kaiser are really sharp, boy. They are cutting right through all those layers of fabric. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and grade my seam allowance a little bit, especially on his legs. That's a long tube to turn. Okay, so now we're ready to turn our giraffe. You're saying, well, how are you going to do that? You don't have an opening. Well, what I did was I laid my giraffe on my quilt, and I know that I wanted him to face this direction, right? Like this. So you're thinking, okay, so how do you cut him and get him on there? Which side do you cut? Instinct says to cut the back side. That's not right. You cut the front. I know this sounds really weird, but you cut the front. So I'm going to separate the two pieces here like this. Let me get his separated. Make sure I don't cut his tail. All right. And I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to cut a hole in my giraffe on the front side of him, what you'd think is the front. There we go. All right, I'm going to turn him right side out through this opening. All right, here's his tail. All right, so now on his legs, I'm going to use the larger tube on the legs because it fits down there. Just like this. That is so much faster than what I was trying to do. If you don't have one of these, you need to get one if you make a lot of this kind of thing. They just make turning these little creatures so much faster, so much easier than struggling to turn this. Look how quick that is. A clever invention. Get my little hooves poked out here. All right, we got our legs and tail. We'll do our head next and our neck. I should just be able to grab this. I'm going to go ahead and stick this in there. That'll make it faster. I have ears and stuff in here. There we go. There's his mane. Where does his little ear go? There it is. There's his little ear. Perfect. All right, we're going to get his little nose poked out here. And his little horn. Let's get that poked out. And again, I'm just using this wooden stick. Sometimes that gets a little tight trying to get down in there. I have used a pin before to reach in and just kind of grab that fabric out of there. And then this metal rod is thinner, and that does help a lot as well. Just to get in there and just keep working at it, because that opening was fairly narrow. And you just got to work that fabric up in there. There it goes. See how it's coming out of there? There we go. There. You just got to work that all through that narrow opening there. Just like that. Cute. This is so adorable. Okay, so remember how we cut the front, what we thought was the front of our giraffe, but now when we put him on here, you see how that worked? Well, now the cut is on the back. All right, so now we're just going to take this to our iron. And to make sure we have this all, the seams are all rolled. I'm just going to kind of work this a little. Let's push his hooves out a little bit more here. Oh, this is so cute. I had so much fun making this. And I know Garrison is going to love it. That's my little grandson. I know he's going to just love this quilt. There we go. All right. Perfect. So I wanted his mane and his tail are going to be 3D, and his little ears. So when I attach this to the quilt, I lay this down. Whoop. I got that a little wrinkly there. There we go. All right. So when I appliqued this on, I laid it on my quilt. Once my quilt was already completely quilted. It was quilted, I had the binding on it, everything was done, and then I did the applique on it. So when I did this, I sewed straight down his little muzzle, so his muzzle stuck out, and I just stitched this right on. And then I did the same thing on his hooves. I just went straight across so that the hooves are 3D on this quilt. Same with the little zebra. And then on the lion, I just stitched his head, so then his mane is free to play with. And then I just quilted his little tail. This quilt was so much fun. Thank you for joining me for making the safari quilt. I hope you learned something. I hope I showed you some good tips and tricks on how to turn things using the Turn It All tools. I love these. They really are a big time saver. Hope you enjoyed this. Join me again